Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Sorry it's been a little bit since my last upload, but I am really excited to be back today with this guy. This is the SP404 Mark II. This one I was kind of holding out on, and the reason is I actually did used to own one of these. I bought one when it first came out, and I didn't really get along with it. I ended up selling it and just moved on with my life. But about a year back, they put out a pretty significant update to this thing, which added a looper function. And you guys know that I'm a sucker for a good looper. So ever since then, I've been really curious about it and wanting to try it. And recently I found a used one for a great price, and I just decided to pull the trigger and go for it. The way that the looper works in here and the way that I've been using it is kind of got me thinking about the way that I perform music live. It's kind of got me thinking that maybe I could do a whole entire set without ever using a sequencer or ever worrying about a grid, just total pure improvisation. So I'm going to show you what I have in mind. I'm going to kind of recreate that jam that I did at the beginning, show you how I added effects to it. This is not going to be a deep dive in the looper. The looper is not crazy complicated and it's pretty limited. I think it's like 16 seconds maximum. But the ways that you can use it and the ways you can implement it in the rest of your workflow actually do go pretty deep. So to get into the looper on the SP404, what you do is you go to Shift Utility, and then under System, scroll down here to Mark function, and you can change this between skip back and looper. It has to be one or the other. You can't use skip back and looper together, but for me, I don't mind because I don't really use skip back too much and I want to have the looper. So once you have that enabled, just hit Mark. Press Mark, you're in the looper, you're ready to go. There's a couple options on the screen here. The first asks you how many measures you want. I always keep this on free because I'm starting jams with no set measure or no BPM in mind, so I keep that on free. I keep auto trig on. I'll show you what that does in a second. And then BPM doesn't really matter because I'm creating my own BPM. I'm not working inside of a grid or a scale. We don't really have to worry about it. There are some other options if you hold Shift, your bus, your routing, and your BPM. We don't really have to get into these, but I will talk about your bus in a bit because that actually does become really important in how you manage your performance effects. So let's go ahead and record a drum loop. So I have auto trig on, so when I press record, it's not going to start recording. It's going to wait for me to start playing, which is pretty cool because I don't want to have to worry about pressing record and starting playback at the same time like you would on a traditional looper, right? And then the other cool thing is that you can add effects. Let me take this out of record wait for a second. You can add effects to your drums. So I added that 303 vinyl sim. Just adds a little punch. And I can record my drums with that effect baked in, and then it will loop with that effect baked in. So let me show you how this works. I press record, it's waiting for me to start. I'm gonna play my beat, and then right on the one, I have to be really precise about timing here, but right on the one, I press record again, and then it loops. Here's what that sounds like. And now we're looping, right? Press record again to stop. Obviously, if you're performing, you don't need to worry about stopping. But for now, I'm just doing that to show you that that effect I put on, the 303 vinyl sim, is now cooked into my loop. It's not going to affect the loop playing back because the loop is going out of its own bus with no effects on it. So I've recorded my drums. I've cooked that 303 vinyl sim into the loop. Is it cooked or is it baked? I've baked it in. I don't really know. Is there a difference? Who knows? These are the important things that we discuss on YouTube. And I can record other things on top of it, overdub like you would on a regular looper. So let me grab my guitar and I'll show you how I record guitar on top of those drums. So I have my guitar plugged into my HX Stomp, which is doing all of my guitar, amp sim, and all that. I'm not doing it in the SP. I don't love the amp sims in here, but they are there if you're in a pinch and you need them. So I'm using the HX Stomp for all my amp sims and everything. And just a quick note, when I first started using this, I was recording through the stereo in on the top of the SP, but for some reason, I don't know if this is my unit or generally or whatever, but the looper seems to be a lot buggier when you're recording a stereo in. If I go down here to the mono input, it seems to be a lot more stable. I don't know why that is, but just a tip out there, if any of you are finding that your stereo in is being buggy with the looper, try this input. So I can't hear anything now because I have to press external source. Once I press that, my guitar is now coming through the SP. And just like my drums, I can add effects to my guitar. So let's put on this 404 vinyl sim with that nice kind of vinyl crackle and that nice flutter. Cool. And now I can record guitar on top of my drums with this 404 vinyl sim baked in. So press record, and then to overdub in the looper, just press resample and start playing. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we're looping. Let me turn this effect off so we don't hear constant vinyl crackle. One note is that you can just keep overdubbing. You don't have to stop and start. If you keep overdubbing and keep playing, it'll just keep adding layers. And I'm definitely going to use that in future videos. But for now, we'll just stick to the one guitar. Here's what my loop sounds like with the 303 vinyl sim on drums and the 404 vinyl sim on guitar. So now I've grabbed my bass. Let me flip over to a bass patch on my HX Stomp. Here's what it sounds like. I'm not a great bass player, so, bear with me here. And just like before, I want to overdub on top of this. So if I want to practice first and figure out what I want to play before I overdub, I just play back. And let's say I want to add another effect to my bass. Let's try warm saturator. All right, let's try that. So I press resample to overdub and off we go. 3, 4. Okay, I already messed that up, but thankfully there's an undo function in the looper. Press shift, pattern select, and then I undo my last layer. Let's try that again. 3, 4. Okay. So there's my loop with guitar and bass. I pressed external source just to turn off my signal as to not create any unnecessary noise playing through. But there's my loop. And now here's the kind of tricky thing about the looper. Any effects that I do, that I put on my multi-effects, they don't affect my loop coming through. And that's because my loop is going through the looper bus. You might be asking, why not just have your looper go through bus 1? Because then you can apply effects to it, right? Like this. And the reason is, whenever your looper is going through bus 1, you can't overdub anymore. Overdubbing is disabled. You can see that resample is not lit up. So just something to be aware of here. When you're resampling, make sure that your looper is going through the looper bus. And then when you're ready to perform with effects, make sure that your looper is going to bus 1, and then you can perform effects just like you would expect. Cool. And then of course you can solo on top of this loop and kind of make it into a song, add a melody to it. So yeah, it's pretty fluid, and the way that I've been using it to make music makes a lot of sense to me. This is the fastest I've ever gotten ideas out. So from the time an idea pops into my head to the time that it kind of comes to life on my device, using the looper, playing in drum patterns with the pads, recording stuff over it with these effects, it's really, really quick to get ideas down. And like I said before, I think I can use this for a performance tool. If I just line up a bunch of different drum kits and one-shots and then just create a bunch of different loops. And there is some advanced functionality with the looper that I will get into in a future video, where you can kind of export different parts as you record to different pads. Just to give you a preview of what that's like, let me do it real quick. So while the loop is playing, if you press copy, you can save the loop to a pad, and then you can switch to the pad. Hear how that was a little choppy. I pressed record and the pad at the same time, and the pad is on gate, so it stopped. But if I turn gate off and loop on, that will just loop. And now my loop is playing on a pad. And I can still add effects and do all that stuff. You can see how as you're looping, maybe I export to a pad after my drums, and then I export to a pad after my bass, and then I export to a pad after my guitar, and you can kind of trigger different parts of your song. Like I said, that's for a future video. I'm gonna still try and keep getting my head around how the looper works generally and using it like I did in the intro. And then my goal is to be able to play a show with the looper and then really improvise with this thing just like an instrument, like I would improvise on a guitar or a drum set. Anyways, welcome to my foray into SP404 Mark II world. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. And yeah, leave a comment. Let me know what you want to see next. Have a great week. Make lots of music. Thank you for watching. Cheers. See you next time.